evening. Welcome to Conspiracy Cafe. I'm your host, George Freund. We're with you now. We're with you to the end. We always hope the end will be a long way off, but sometimes you get some surprises. We got some surprises last week after the show as we were walking away from the station where I was just overwhelmed with a super high blood pressure attack. Compliments of most likely this non-prescription allergic remedy, Claritin D. D for dynamite. So they have a warning on the box from Big Pharma. Should have realized when this was the added bonus from some antihistamines I bought that they were there for a reason, probably to reduce the population of the human race. So they say on the box, you don't mix these things with blood pressure medications. Well, I'm not on any medication, so it's like, no brainer. Don't have to worry about that too much. What they should say is it just keeps raising your blood pressure and raising your blood pressure and raising your blood pressure until I was going through what I thought was a heart attack. Left arm, numb, pain, and it just absolutely stopped you in your tracks. You couldn't take another step because I was probably ringing the bell big time. So when I got home, my blood pressure was stopping 165. I'd hate to see what it was when I had the pain in the street. It was probably close to 170, 180. Blood vessel popping time. So I can see where a lot of people die young from pharmaceutical medications. So I've been working with Dr. Rebecca Carley, who does an alternative media show, to get me into some stuff that tapers everything down very quickly, and we've knocked that puppy down to where it's supposed to be so we can start life over on an even keel. She was recommending magnesium and CoQ10, another herbal supplement. And I'd have to say they worked marvelously. We've dropped significantly almost back to normal with that in a matter of a few days. And then, of course, you have to taper off on that so you don't go so low you turn into a corpse the other way. So it's just an amazing thing, the human body and its resilience to things, but also the deviousness of large corporations. Of course, a small corporation, that media corporation, does a nice show here, allowing us to speak and get the message out here at that channel, downtown Toronto at Bay and Dundas. And that channel's putting on a good show. Like last weekend, they had the George Norrie thing at the exhibition like they had the year before. I wasn't all that impressed because, by and large, they still are corporate media, part of the Borg to some degree, and they just don't really grab the bull by the throat like we do here. And even mentioning some of the ways we do that to George Norrie in person, I could just see, I pretty much spinning my wheels. And I've spun my wheels before, so there's an old saying, doesn't matter how hard you row if you're rowing in the wrong direction. In a lot of respect, almost anything that's on the corporate media Borg is the wrong direction. But the boys at that channel are putting together a little thing at Oise Auditorium, July 25th, 2013. Once in a few centuries comes a far-reaching revolution in our scientific and philosophical paradigms, the revelation of anti-gravity in solar dynamics and cosmology. Like, you just can't resist a poster like this. And that'll be coming up in July, and I'll try to photograph that or something like that and put it on our website so you can see it and look at the date and all that kind of stuff. Sounds like a great evening out from 7 to 9 p.m., July 25th, 2013. So if you're in the GTA or around and about, you can come and meet some fellow travelers and see where they take you. Before we got here, we had a big surprise in British Columbia. This gentleman here, John Nuttall, they always find good names for their Manchurians, false flaggers, whatever, was arrested by the RCMP for allegedly putting together some of these, wonderful pressure cooker bombs. I guess they can't. This is the thing of the week or something. Looks like I've been to restaurants where they serve something like that. It just looks absolutely disgusting, or maybe it was after somebody ate and got rid of something disgusting. But this is supposed to be the pressure cooker bomb that he created. But unfortunately for him, and fortunately for the RCMP, they were following him since February in something they called Project Souvenir, and they replaced all the ingredients of his souffle with inert things so that nothing could happen anyway. So that tells me that this was a false flagger, pretty much in the genre the FBI does, is where they cultivate and lead this guy along, who's probably like a couple of bricks short of a load on a good day, so that they can raise his severed head in triumph and say, see, look, we've done something. Because really, like, if you saw him putting together a bomb to blow up Parliament in February, why not arrest him in February? Why do you got to wait for the spectacle of the Canada Day celebration to have more scarerism, as it's been termed, so that everybody can run and fear and ask for the government to take away more of your rights, give the police more power, take more of our money, never look for that missing $3.1 billion in terror money, so we can have another barf bucket in a pressure cooker. But at least Obama has the guts to blow his people to smithereens and add a few actors here and there. So this is, I guess, some of his nuts and bolts and such. So the funny thing about this chap is he writes a song, he's a musician, it's called In League with Satan. And he says in his lyrics, he sits on the left hand of Satan. And then the RCMP try to tell us that he's really Al-Qaeda, natural-born, Canadian-born Al-Qaeda. Now, I find that a little, diametrically opposed, is how can this guy be Al-Qaeda and at the same time be a Satanist in league with Satan in some kind of grunge rock band that does devil worship and stuff? They don't match. It's like you never get the two up at the same time. Has smoking gun, false flag are all over it. The good news is, of course, I guess they didn't let him blow up some innocent people. Save that for the Obama administration and such. I was quite surprised to learn that while traveling through Africa, the great God Obama was ridiculed by people who should be in his camp, black Africans, people traditionally on the Democratic left, trade unionists from South Africa, their largest trade union, protesting against him, students from the University of Cape Town protesting the fact he's going to get an honorary degree, saying he doesn't deserve it for many reasons, his drone campaign, the national surveillance grid, Guantanamo, pick one. So what do is, they just shoot all the kids with rubber bullets for daring to go after the great God Obama. So let's have a look at our blog for today, Uncle Obama's Cabin. There we go. Thought that was cute. On conspiracy-cafe.com, I called it Uncle Tom's Cabin. Uncle Tom's Cabin is a classic work of literature from the 19th century, biggest selling book in the 19th century next to the Bible. Of course, the best-selling novel, famous novel made into a movie. The concept of Uncle Tom is someone who acquiesced and went along with the plantation owners to basically prosper while his people are held in bondage. That's a common scenario in the world. In World War II in Norway, when the Germans invaded, the leader was named Quisling, and he had to acquiesce and form a puppet government under the Germans, and everyone who participated in that were called Quislings. And then in France, the French people that went along with the Germans, of course you didn't have too much choice. You got a bayonet in your ribs and another gun in your head. Limit your options a little bit. So they were the Vichy government, and they were the collaborators with the Germans at the time. So of course, President Obama getting elected on a false front, saying that, he's going to do everything right. He's going to change everything the Bushites did. He's going to get out of these godforsaken wars, the Iraq War, the Afghanistan War, the War on Terror, the destruction of rights and liberties, and he's going to build a better police state, a national surveillance grid. He's going to make Guantanamo a model of police state prisons. No, he didn't say that, did he? But that's what he did. He made Guantanamo the model of police state prisons like the world has never seen. He's made the national surveillance grid, compliments of the guy they hired who used to be the chief of the Stasi that went into the Department of Homeland Security, so that they can listen to you fart from 3 miles away and store it in perpetuity. And then he has the nerve, as Bugs Bunny used to say, the nerve to go to South Africa and see, there's our protest, let's get a nice picture of Obama, that's him in the cell at the end. He goes to the place where Nelson Mandela was held prisoner to view the cells. And I like that picture because we can just close the door and close the book on this guy. But let's look at his track record for having the nerve. So a comment here from Orwell. Do you begin to see then what kind of world we are creating? It is the exact opposite of the stupid hedonistic utopias that the old reformers imagined. A world of fear and treachery and torment, a world of trampling and even being trampled upon, a world which will grow not less but more merciless as it refines itself. Progress in our world will be like progress towards more pain, George Orwell. Right on the money. So this is a sample of the handiwork, the blood that is on our hands, of a poor child not killed, but mutilated in a drone raid while probably the rest of her family was killed. And you just look at this beautiful smiling face, as damaged as it is, and realize the sentient soul that's inside, and the fact that the man who treads where Nelson Mandela tread did this. Not only that, we have a link there to one of his drone attacks where 69 children in a school were blown to smithereens and killed. And of course that doesn't matter because maybe they pray in a different direction and their skin is darker but then his skin is darker too, isn't it? But I guess that makes him a hypocrite. So to be able to go to this prison and walk in Nelson Mandela's footsteps and claim to be on a moral high road, sacrilegious. It really is. If you're going to be a cutthroat killer, find some great tyrant or despot. Go to his tomb or grave. Go to see Lenin, Chairman Mao, somebody, Pol Pot, pick somebody. Some survivors of the Third Reich machinations or something. Go there and see your brethren. That's what they did. That's what they do. So here's some of the protesters on the road. And this is where I said, like last week with Mick Jagger, he's lost it. He's lost the support of the people who would be his supporters. Trade unionists, biggest trade union in South Africa, coming out in the street, calling him the world's top assassin. Without Saudi cash, America is a pauper regime. End the war on terror, because the war on terror is really the war on us. You and me, everybody else. And you wanted to go see Obama and exercise your democratic right to protest? Rubber bullets, baby. We're shooting all them black bastards down. And then Obama has the nerve to say, well, when I was in university, we encouraged America to divest from that awful South African regime. Who's F.W. de Klerk now? You're doing everything the same that he did on a massive scale that's much, much worse. And then as the predictive programming language goes, here's some people protesting, and there's a nice picture of Obama. There's another one with a foot in his head. But Obama, World War III with the Hitler mustache. They're right on the money. We have our link to Obama as Hitler here from our posting from before, talking about where Hitler went, where Obama was formed, and how they made him into the next Hitler to start World War III. And then in the back, just as a little highlight, you have the nuclear power plant, just to shine a shadow upon it. So close that door on Uncle Tom's cabin so he can't get out and do it some more. It's just awful. It really is. Here's some of the pictures, I guess, from the joinee as they load up. So, here he is with Michelle and, signing the book as he wanders around with his Secret Service bodyguards all there. But for all the things he's done, these are crimes against humanity. So to go around and tread this ground, I find that just morally reprehensible. Practice what you preach. If you want to be a killer, be a good killer. This is a great article, by the way, for predictive language and predictive programming and all that sort of thing. So, see, we got the title a little closer. Following in Mandela's footsteps, Barack Obama and Michelle make the poignant pilgrimage. They made a poignant pilgrimage to the island where the South African leader was imprisoned for 11 years. And you'll see links in the Daily Mail articles about this stuff where Nelson Mandela didn't want to see him. They didn't meet. And Obama goes, I'm not there for a photo op. Why all the pictures? You think I'm stupid? So they talk about how he was imprisoned, not Obama, who should be imprisoned, Nelson Mandela, on Robben Island for 19 of 27 years that he spent in prison. So you got 18 of 27 years. So you got a 9 and a 9. In the top of the article, it's updated at 11:30. So you get the 33 degrees of Freemasonry sign. The original publishing time is 14:42. So you get a 5 and a 6. You put those together, you got 11. So they're telling you again, 9/11, 9/11 is well coded through the article. The 94-year-old Mandela, 9 and 4, 13, 9/11, 13. That date keeps coming up and up and up and up and up. The tour guide, 83 years old, another 11. How the former president has been in hospital the last 3 weeks, so another multiple of the 1133. It's just like they're really screaming at us about this. He talks about that his father was a Kenyan, and he made a previous visit to Ghana in 2009, another 11 added to the soup. So we have 32% drop in the number of AIDS-related deaths. 2 times 3 is 6. Then they talk about that era being between 2005 and 2011, another 11. Doesn't bode well. It sounds like they're really looking to pull something this September 11th. And when the Americans do it, they seem to do a much better job. But what has Obama done? This article is from the Daily Mail, The Ghosts of the Cold War in the Past. And, you know, this was the spying effort, Project Echelon, that happened in Germany in the good old Cold War era. This was the big listening post. Echelon still exists in a much more advanced format. They don't need all this old style stuff. As we can see, it's all been left to rot. But Project Echelon was a thing that got all this started, where we have this complete and total surveillance society to monitor anything and everything you do with the old technology we had at the time. Of course, with every upgrade in technology, we get a whole new perspective on our ability to listen. And they spy on our friends and our allies. Well, he spies on his wife. Maybe he spies on his children in the bathroom because he's the president and he can get away with it. And if he doesn't do it, his national security agents do. So you have to wonder, what kind of a father is he? What kind of a president is he? Well, I'm not all that impressed. So they say, well, the spying on allies is not unusual. Everybody does it. So like my mother said when I was a child, if everybody jumps off a cliff, are you going to go with them? No, you have to think for yourself and you have to do what's right. The fact that everybody else does it is no thing to say that it's justified. And this is what John Kerry says. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's smoking dope. Everybody's a killer. Everybody speeds. Everybody does this. Everybody does that. It's not good enough. And you see the cold, icy stare here of Angela Merkel having the toast with Obama. He's got his head in the ground, probably because he's got a mirror on his boot, you know, and he's looking up her dress, pretending, you know. And she's got the, I got you, baby, smile on her face, giving him the evil eye. You prick. I invite you here for your photo op and you're spying on me? So putting a camera in your friend's private space is, you know, a moral outrage. It's a crime in most places. It's a perversion. A complete and total perversion. And even in that article, too, you get the predictive programming of the 27-member block UN office in New York with 38 embassies and missions. So another 9/11 hinting at New York. It's everywhere. So one of the big sidebar stories is the president of Ecuador, Rafael Correa, is probably not going to take Snowden. And you'd have to say, well, why the about face? Because I'll bet you they got all the NSA spying stuff out on him. They give him a big list of all his bank accounts in foreign countries, all the women he's got screwed with here, there, and everywhere, or, you know, maybe he's done this wrong or that wrong, and they just send him a little package and say, you know, it could come out, or you could shut up. So he's probably going to shut up. Putin isn't going to do too much with this guy because it's going to sour U.S.-American relations for some time. But in the article, they talk about a 2007 project codenamed DropMine, planting a bug in the cryptofax of the EU Embassy in Washington, D.C. So the Germans, a lot of the Europeans, they're not too happy about this stuff, and I don't blame them because, you know, we were friends. Like, I don't have to watch what Hugh does while I'm away for a week, you know. Maybe he's got his own little pressure cooker and he's cooking all kinds of stuff somebody threw up in the pot over or something like that. I don't know. That's his business. But Snowden's not living at the airport. He's living in a 4-star hotel near the terminal that's classified in the same category as the hotel, so that he hasn't really left or anything like that. So, of course, he's supposed to have registered at that hotel under the name of Snowden as well, but with a different first name, and then got caught and transferred to another hotel. The Venezuelan leader is supposed to be coming into Russia for today, tomorrow, and he's going to maybe most likely take him out, as opposed not kill him, but take him home, and that would be a good thing. One of the bizarre anecdotes in this article is a spokesman for Putin says that Snowden belongs to the anti-globalists, who I admire and love. The anti-globalists. In the end, these are the people that will rescue the world. Very interesting comment. Snowden was flattered as a soldier in the information war who fights, of course, on the side of Russia. And he deserves political asylum. He's very popular there. But that is a very interesting little anecdote. The anti-globalists. And I guess that has to be, in a way, where we come from. Anti-globalists. Because we all know these utopias are a complete and total fraud and fake that suck us in the name of some false, impossible dream to enter into the mire of a hell that no one could even imagine or speculate. And it's always been that way. It's the siren song. It was another predictive programming piece that came my way, just sheer luck, as I hardly follow news in Stockholm, much less the Red Bull flight day of 2013, called the Flugtag. And when you see this picture quickly, you can't help but open it up quickly, because this crashing wolf, looked more like a pig to me, but it's a wolf, is number 18, so a 9. And the gingerbread house Santa Claus is flying on is number 11, so we have another 9/11. And all through this article and all through some of the things that are on it, we have many, many 9/11s. There's a close-up of our crashing house. And then we have to look at some of these means of transportation crashing as maybe be indicative of some of the events that could possibly happen on a predictive programming 9/11. The fact we have the 2 crashing Red Bulls, and we can't make them red heifers because they're really bulls, even though we could probably find more prophetic statements with red heifers. They are bulls, one on each side of the sun, perhaps crashing into each other. The fighter plane crashing, number 8, may be indicative of things as well. So they had 5 people fly their homemade vessel off a 6-meter platform. We get an 11. There were 9 people and Team Thirsty Wolves. The wingspan could not exceed 33 meters on these things. So all the same numbers are there again. The 9/11, the 33, and we may have a great party this year on 9/11, where we may be taking ourselves to a vista that we never planned on. So it pays for us to pay attention, watch out for these things. One of the things we have to watch out for is the weather reports. Comrade Hugh has a good video on the Calgary storm. Some brilliant individual was right there handy with their camera to capture the effect. As we said in our blog on the storm and the weather weapons that are involved, is that there are currents of water vapor in the sky that are bigger and have more volume than the Amazon River. And with the technology that exists today, these things can be dropped upon your head in very short order. And you see something, a big tubular cloud approaching Calgary, that could very well be that vapor river. Fire when ready, Grizzly. Okay, so you just don't see things like that every day. Was God there somewhere? Maybe, I don't know. But we just don't see things like that every day. And if we do see things like that, it's head for the hills, because we see with the traffic moving that the water still hadn't fallen yet. But they seem to have a way to accumulate and collect all this water vapor and hold it almost in suspended animation as a cloud, and then just dump it on your head. And then you go swimming for it. And the average guy, Joe Sixpack, he's not going to figure this out. Even a lot of people with, a significant amount of education. I can talk to a lot of people who are teachers, professors, they haven't got a clue about this stuff. You look on the website, you see that, there's research material on this type of phenomena from Stanford University, and how they use weather weapons and how they can dance them and steer them around like child's play. It's just common knowledge for people in the know. This is another cloud that the same effect that was off Brazil last year. And, I don't even know if these people even knew as much about what it was. This is rolling across the Sea of Brazil as the ship's passing by. So just an amazing effect that they can control stuff like this and just sock it to you, baby, whenever they feel like it. Here's a list here from this company that, I've talked about in the past many years ago. Weather Modification Incorporated. Just a conspiracy theory, right? So, we get a list of the countries and the projects they have. Here's Canada, Alberta Hail Suppression Project, British Columbia Ministry of Forestry, British Columbia Hydro and Power Authority, Saskatchewan National Hydrology Research Agency, Greece, India, Indonesia, Jordan, Mali, Mexico, Morocco, Saudi Arabia, Senegal, Spain, Turkey, United Arab Emirates. The United States has got quite a lot of contracts with these people here. So, you just look around where some of your weather happens and you just wonder, who's doing that? Just absolutely amazing. Even the FAA, Great Lakes Division, has contracts with these people. The National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, the National Hurricane Center. What do we got to whack you with? A 2x4 with a nail in it just so it sticks into your head? It can't be more plain. It just can't be more plain. But that's why we have to come to Conspiracy Cafe. That's why we have to come to the one and only that channel, because nobody else is going to bother with this stuff. Here's our little Google Doodle from the Tour de France. As Comrade Google sets up his doodle for the 100th Tour de France for the father. It kind of eclipses the Father's Day. The Tour de France started in 1903. It was the very day, very much like today. There was a bicycle race, a great national security scandal. At that time, it was the Dreyfus Affair. A very important thing for you to look into, and we have that on our movie blog, Conspiracy Night at the Movies. We have the life of Emile Zola, the reporter, the writer, the great author who took on the government, the administration, to stand up for Dreyfus and report the news that you weren't allowed to report because the army and the politicians and the rich people all stood in your way to prevent you from knowing it. And having the courage to write articles that always started with "J'accuse," I accuse you. And how many politicians and leaders can we talk about today that we have to say, I accuse you? All of them almost. So Dreyfus was charged and convicted of giving state secrets away to the enemy, notably the Germans. But he didn't do it. He was framed, as you'll find in the movie, by another guy, Esterhazy. And he was the guy who gave the stuff away, but he was the boss, so he could pick the lower flunky and have him convicted. Reagan fixed all the evidence. So nowadays we have Edward Snowden as the Dreyfus. And everybody's deeply divided about whether he's guilty or innocent. One of the other things that's a little bizarre anecdote about the Vélo, there was two newspapers at the time, L'Auto and Le Vélo. And of course the Vélo was the bicycle, L'Auto was the car, but it were sports journals that did a lot of one-upmanship on the Dreyfus affair. But one thing they used to have in the days of the Velo was a pistol called the Velo dog to shoot dogs that wanted to chew you up while you were riding in the countryside. So that also has to come up in the doodle, is that we have a Velo dog. The Twilight language comes up from the date that the paper started the race, 19 January 1903. And we have the numbers in the Twilight language coming up. 191, or the infamous 9/11 with a 13. That day keeps coming back in infamy. So was Dreyfus framed? Of course he was. The famous gun that bears the name used to shoot an aggressive dog. We call traitors dogs. Are they going to shoot the traitors? Many people are saying, shoot the traitors. This is Emile Zola, champion of justice, wrote many, many books. Actually, I'm quite surprised. A guy I work with at work comes from Europe. He has the whole collection of Zola books. So, bonus. This is the map of the race. It ends in Corsica. Corsica is a very interesting place because that's where they dumped Napoleon at the end and poisoned him. Then the predictive language of the winds, 36 wins for France. You could also have a 666 out of that, but you also get a 9, 18 wins for Belgium, another 9, 12 wins for Spain, a 3. So you can have multiples of same, and 9 wins for Italy. So the inverted cross, 999 times 3, that's a big power number for the New World Order. The prizes, the race was amended to 19 days, from the 1st to the 19th. The fee for the prize was cut to 10 francs. So we get another 9/11. The prizes were 3,000 francs daily and 12,000 francs purse for the overall winner. So we can end up with a 6 times 3 for another 666. The race started at the Café Revel Martin by the starter George Abran. Hopefully the George at the Café isn't the dog to be shot with the Velo. And of course they have a warning flag. The yellow jerseys that all the riders wear are symbolic of this. And Corsica is 11 kilometers wide, 90 kilometers or 56 miles from Tuscany. So another variations on the theme of 9/11 over and over again. So you see the future by looking at the past. Part of the Twilight language, or something that impresses me by it, is if there is something higher than us, a fourth dimension, and it casts a shadow upon us, by looking for little bits and pieces, we can find that shadow, look at it, make something out of it, and perhaps, just perhaps, change some of our destinies. But we can read the codes and machinations of the New World Order in many of the things they write and see that storm cloud coming upon us and get out of the way. If the broad masses of people could be trained to even remotely understand some of these things, they couldn't pull too much over on us because we'd see it coming and step out of the way. But that's the whole reason why this show is very, very unique compared to anything else. George Noory can get well paid as a veteran of the Office of Naval Intelligence and command a large audience. But he can never tell you when to duck and cover with the efficiency that we can. Or cut to the chase and go straight to the heart of the matter and tell you what they're up to. He wouldn't have the nerve. Pope Francis launches an inquiry into the Vatican Bank to look into the activities of the secretive, scandal-tainted Vatican Bank with fresh accusations of corruption. A couple of their bank leaders resigned just from the smell of it. They used a commission, or going to use a commission, to investigate the bank's legal structure and activities to allow, and then they get the buzzword. As soon as you see the buzzword, they know they got you. To allow better harmonization with the universal mission of the Apostolic See. As soon as you hear harmonization, you know they got you. Bend over, baby. They slap in your butt. Prosecutors in Salerno placed Senior Vatican Monsignor Nunzio Scarano under investigation for alleged money laundering. He says he received bad advice from my accountants. 2 Americans, Monsignor Peter Wells, a top official at the Vatican Secretariat of State, and Marianne Glendon, a Harvard Law professor and former U.S. ambassador to the Holy See, will be part of this commission. And basically, anytime they have a commission, it's always a whitewash commission. Revelations were leaked in a document last year. This is the second time in as many weeks that Francis has intervened to get information out of the Institution for Religious Works, or IOR. Well, why should he have to, like, he's the Pope, right? He's just like, hey, Guido, tell me what happened. It should just be that simple. He's got to pull teeth too. On June 15th, he filled a key vacancy at the bank's governing structure, tapping the trusted prelate inside the bank. So as soon as we see that, we got the buzzword again for the fact that this is a skull and bones operation. The whole crux of the Vatican Bank comes down to just the simple fact of when it was formed. 1942. What was going on in 1942? Hitler was laying waste to Europe, and he had tons of money to get rid of because he just couldn't go to London or Washington to buy stuff. So he had to launder his money, and you needed a bank to do that. Well, you couldn't do it with Comrade Mussolini, who was really a British agent in World War I. He couldn't go to the store either. So you find, hey, Papal Nunzio, over here. You're a city-state. How about you form a bank? And then you can launder the money, because you're already here in fascist Italy, and trade around the world and get our money here, there, and everywhere. That seems to be this big secret of the Vatican Bank. It's probably one of the world's biggest and most effective money laundering organizations the world has ever seen. And they started doing the ill-gotten gains of the Nazis. So this commission is supposed to have authority to gather documents, even overriding normal secrecy rules. They can receive information from anyone, except the fly on the wall. The commission will report back to Francis, and then it will be dissolved. Or maybe it'll report back to Francis and he will be dissolved like they did with John Paul I. So Scarano has been suspended temporarily from his position at the Vatican's key Office of Finances. Italy's central bank has asked for the Vatican's financial information and them to be a little more open about where they steal their money so that maybe they can get a piece of the action. I don't know. Vatican officials have long insisted it's not even a bank. It doesn't perform key banking activities like making loans. It does, however, take deposits, transfer money, and invest for its clients, performing asset management services. In 2012, it earned 86.6 million euros in profit on 7.1 billion euros in total assets under management. You know, it ain't doing so bad, but unfortunately maybe there's a lot of it that's, drug money or something. And then of course Roberto Calvi, the guy from Banco Ambrosio, found hanging from Blackfriars Bridge. Well, he didn't do so well in dealing with the Vatican Bank either. Then there's a former priest, Don Patrizio Poggi, 46, who was the guy who pimped boys for clergymen. So this, Poggi is the former carabinieri who pimped the boys for clergymen. The parish priest was in San Filippo Neri Church. So he'd pick up all these boys outside of gay bars and train stations, modeling agencies, gay discos, and gyms, and bring them to these Vatican honchos for 150 to 500 euro sex acts sessions, selling consecrated hosts for satanic rites. It involved 9 clergymen, 2 senior church officials, and a religious lecturer. Of course, all the allegations are rejected by the Vatican. Cardinal Agostino Vallini, head of the Church Vicariate of Rome, said this priest made false claims. But then they always say that, because it's always like the world of Zola. For the honor of France, the honor of the army, for the honor of the Pope, and the honor of the Vatican, it's always the same story. That's why that lesson, if there's a lesson planned to teach the young, the story of the Dreyfus Affair, how it was covered up, how 9/11 is covered up, the Kennedy assassination, pick something, some of the late model ones here, the Levinson inquiry here in Britain. So a senior policeman who looked into fraud of the police and their misdeeds, Peter Tickner, wanted to give evidence at the Levinson inquiry over the dirty tricks that officers used to smear each other in the media. So it was just like the Klingon Empire. You couldn't sword and blade everybody, so you used the media to whitewash your colleagues so they couldn't get promoted or frame them into something. Primarily looked after financial frauds. But in this, he found out many, many things about the dirty dealings in the London Metropolitan Police and how they scammed so many. And he wanted to bring this out at the Levinson inquiry. And he even spoke to Lord Levinson about this. And he said, well, we just can't take you in. We just don't have the resources or the ability. This guy spent 14 years investigating the misuse of police funds and corruption. Responsible for 60 to 70 internal inquiries a year. He saved £24 million for the taxpayers in the waste that these people had at the top. Some of his individuals that he's going after, like the leaks involved a bungled raid by a counter-terrorism police in Forest Gate, East London, where a suspect was mistakenly shot. The former head of counter-terrorism, Andy Heyman, and Commissioner Sir Ian Blair had links to a friend who won a £3 million police contract. So some pretty hefty stuff, covering up errors, funneling money to your friends, and Lord Levinson says he can't hear that. Why? For the honor of the force and the Union Jack. It's the same stuff. So in this Forest Gate shooting, 250 anti-terrorism and firearms officers go after these two brothers, Muslim suspects. Mohammed Abdul Kahar, 23, was shot in the drama. They found no evidence against them. They were released without charge. MI5 was blamed for incorrect intelligence. Just a total bungle job from the top to the bottom. Then they get into some of the things about this phone hacking, which we really know are cover-ups for murder, and the culprits involved. But they were into many other areas as well that were swept under the rug. One is law firms and insurance companies were doing all the same stuff that News of the World was doing. Big carpet, big rug, pick it up, sweep it under. They even had stuff that they were giving away was the identities of people in the witness protection plans. But that's all off the hook. Then another case in Britain, same thing. It's Emile Zola all over again. How police spied on the family of a chap named Stephen Lawrence, who was murdered a long time ago now. Stephen Lawrence was black. He was killed. And then for some strange reason, the police executive put together a team of undercover officers to smear the name and reputation of the family of the man who was murdered. So one of the officers has come clean, Peter Francis, and written a book on this. So it was called Undercover. And you have to give the man a great deal of credit for coming forward and bringing a spotlight on this, because it's just downright evil. The guy was killed. He was murdered. Doesn't really matter anything about his family. Really doesn't matter what he was either. He could have been total scum. But he was murdered. So what's your job? To have 4 officers detailed to smear his family's reputation? To follow them around on where they go and what they do, when you should be looking for the guy who killed him or guys who killed him? So even David Cameron says, I'm deeply concerned by reports the police wanted to smear the family of Stephen Lawrence. The mess must investigate immediately. So I'm sure they'll have a commission. But this chap was the victim of a racist murder in 1993. And the best they can come up with is this. But there's where the media, The Guardian, and Channel 4's show Dispatches takes up the j'accuse and starts pointing the finger at these people, because that's just absolutely scandalous. Like, if someone told you this, you'd lose a bet, saying you didn't think it was humanly possible for the chief of police to start something up like this. Britain not to be undone by their American friends. A city council in Slowborough, Slough, spends £24,000 on a spy plane so they can fly over neighborhoods and do thermal imaging because there's people living in sheds. And I guess they're not paying their adequate taxes. They say it's all for health and safety this and health and safety that, and this is substandard, that's substandard. Well, if you didn't have the shed to live in, you'd, just be rolled up on the grass in the park, waiting for the cops to come and kick you out. So this company, Blue Sky International, goes around and takes all this thermal imaging so that they can find out, who's there. Who cares? It's a private contract between individuals. They're going to fine a lot of these homeowners £200 a night for keeping these people in places. Far better they have some shelter than no shelter. It's just absolutely scandalous. Most of these people are childless couples, people with low incomes, maybe seniors, who knows. They make up all kinds of propaganda that they're in cockroach-ridden outhouses, beds in sheds, they call it. But how did they get into the beds and sheds? Probably by a lot of the economic policies of the big government. The high taxation, the stupid laws, the waste, the corruption. If that didn't exist, we probably wouldn't have this so-called problem. Canada has come clean here with a mask ban. So we passed a law here to make it a criminal offense that during a riot or an unlawful assembly, it's illegal to wear a mask. So if you assembled in the street and you were protesting and having fun, and everybody's wearing their V for Vendetta mask, and unbeknownst to you, the chief of police or the mayor rules that by decree to be an unlawful assembly or riot, all of a sudden now you're a criminal. But you had no idea you were going to a riot or an unlawful assembly. You were just at a normal street protest. The circumstances changed, and now all of a sudden you're breaking this law where they can lock you up for 10 years. Well, that doesn't make any sense. The other thing is a lot of the protesters who go to a legitimate protest do have a little bit to fear. Maybe you're working in the government and you want to protest some things about the government, but you can't go there because they're going to see your mug and kick your butt later when you come to work. Or they use the classic, a woman going through protesters to get her abortion. Hiding her face would be at risk. There's nothing wrong with staying anonymous. The fact that you're wearing a mask doesn't imply you're committing any type of crime. The fact you're throwing the rock, that's the dead giveaway, whether you got a mask on or not. Pretty easy to figure out. And when we had that big issue with the G20, nobody did anything about it because they were all agents provocateurs working for the police and the government in the first place. Somewhere along the line, that's my ride, we lose something. Basically all our rights and freedoms, that's what we lose. And it's a blasted shame. In this story here, we had, the big incident at the Great Flood here in Calgary. And I want you to see these terrorists. See all these people here? These are terrorists. These are criminals. They're Canadian citizens. They're probably upwardly mobile, middle class. Alert, alert, upwardly mobile, middle class. They must be eliminated. They are Al-Qaeda. So I guess that's probably another reason why they wanted to pull this false flag event, because in the home base, Calgary, of the Conservative Party's power structure, the place where they were going to have the convention, the RCMP found lots of time to go house to house to seize everybody's guns and take them away. Forcibly entering homes, kicking in the doors, and in Canada you got to lock all these things up. They got to be in safes and storage cabinets and stuff. So, you're taking away a lot of weight. Like, you need a big truck, lots of guys. So we can't do anything to help the evacuation, stop the storm, do sandbagging, yada, 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 whatever, look after the wounded. No, we go straight for the guns. So it's like a big training exercise for what's coming next. So some of these people aren't too happy about that. Vic Tays, the perverted minister, is going to see about getting these people their property back. They put a spike belt along the road so nobody can go back home. It's almost like Oka or something like that, but at least at Oka, there they all are. Plenty of cops there to kick the crap out of you if you want to go back to your own home. But, who's looking after the damage control from the flood? They probably had like 1,000 times more collecting all the guns. That's a lot of work. Calgary's a big city. Or, it was just, one of the smaller towns. That's more than enough. Here you are, people. Just so you know, you're the enemy. You haven't figured it out yet. You probably won't figure out. See, you wake up before you get on the train. You wake up on the train. You wake up when you get off the train. You wake up, before you get into the camp. You wake up before the shower room. If you wait a little longer than that, you waited too long. There's so much information. See, what these people don't know. See these people right here? Show them again. You know what they are? They're enemy combatants. But see, they don't understand that because they're just on a solid level 2. But you go to any war zone where a war zone's going to be or something's going to happen, anyone who has access to firearms or any type of access to be a military threat in the most bizarre innuendo possible is an enemy combatant and has to be eliminated. So in the Great Yugo War, times past, they killed all Muslim boys between 12, 13 to 110 or something like that. Just wiped them all out. They had no idea why they're doing that. It's only because you're male and you're within a certain age frame, you're an enemy combatant. So what these people don't understand, as well-intentioned and well-motivated as they may be, is they're enemy combatants. There's a power force called globalization. It's going to steamroller you into the ground and take over this planet and kill you if necessary. Just for fun. And you've already been determined to be an enemy combatant. That's why they're coming for you so hard. To turn what used to be a Canadian tradition into the most evil and vile crime known to the master race, the possession of firearms. So one story I never had a chance to get into, Global News did some kind of gun control thing there, loopholes in Canadians' gun laws about magazine capacities and stuff like that, but it was one of those slip-of-the-lip moments in their article that just blew me away. See, if you have a magazine that was made for a pistol, which is allowed to have 10 rounds, and you put it in a rifle that can take that magazine, which is only supposed to have 5 rounds by law, it's legal because the magazine was made for the pistol, not for the rifle, even though it fits. So you can put a higher capacity magazine in that rifle as long as it was made for the pistol. So they're making a big hue and cry about that. It didn't really mean shit to me. If somebody wants to shoot you, they only need one, they're going to do a good job. What got me here is the pistol that they were talking about is very rare in Canada. Has a very short barrel, looks like an AR-15. So they said in their article, the guns are very rare in this country. We found 75 of them in our copy of the firearms registry out of 8 million guns registered in Canada as of last spring. And then there's one of those like Bugs Bunny when he's in that bomber crashing into the ground, puts the brakes on, just stops that bomber a couple inches before it hits the ground. Our copy? Global News has a copy of the firearms registry? Who gave them that? And if they got a copy, who else has got a copy? Because, they got rid of the firearms registry, right? How did all these cops in Alberta know which houses to go to get the guns? Well, they'd know which one had restricted or prohibited firearms. They just call up CTV, hey, you guys want to, bump over your copy of the registry so we can go door to door and play? Your copy? You're not supposed to have any copy. This is supposed to be highly classified information that could fall into the wrong hands and be used by Al-Qaeda or something. You shouldn't have a copy, but they got a copy. Unbelievable. Jennifer Lopez goes to the police state of police states, Turkmenistan, to sing happy birthday to the president, El Duce dictator. Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedow, who runs one of the most draconian police states on the planet Earth, who's celebrating his 56th birthday. Then she found out as she was tweeting stuff that, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, you're in the place from hell. So in the end, they ended their tweet with hit me up. Well, they do that a lot down at the police station over there. They're hitting everybody up, usually with a big rubber hose or something. Then she finds out, ooh, that's not politically correct, I better apologize. Detroit defaults on some of its debts. They're on the brink of complete financial ruin. So they're going into, like a forced receivership, the moratorium on Detroit's payments on unsecured debt. So if you had unsecured debt, kaputski. 10 cents on the dollar, if you're lucky. That's one of those signs of things to come. EU plan, make every bank account vulnerable to the Cyprus-style bailout. So that was approved in the European Union last Thursday. Or pardon me, it's submitted for approval. It still has to be finalized by the end of the year. It was just put forward last Thursday, but it's something to come. Families in Greece putting their children into orphanages big time because they can't afford to feed them. You read this article, it's many, many pages long, brings tears to your eyes. One guy here, he's got 4 children between 6 and 14. They put him in jail. He's in debtor's jail because he can't make these payments. People taking wage cuts. There's a lot of charities in Greece looking after kids. Maybe that's some place to send a few pesos to help them along so these little waifs have food to eat. Not that I'm dissuading you from hitting the donate button at Conspiracy Cafe to help us put forward a show like this. The British budget stuff's going through. It could go into that in great detail, but we don't have the time for that. But in a nutshell, I always said there was something to watch for us. When they start going after the cops and their wages, we're underwater. Bloop, 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 bloop. So all the deals they had with the police, the nurses, prison guards, teachers with automatic pay increases are out the window. They're doing stress testing on the heating allowance for seniors, going after a lot of the things for seniors. So that tells us, in a nutshell, that Britain is on the verge of the surge to the bottom. And that's one of the things we're seeing. Don't have too much time to get into the gold and things like that, but we're seeing a super depression, and a lot of it's in Europe, with even effects in China, starting to take the world by storm. There's one fan was telling me, there's lineups to buy gold in China and other places because there has to be a parting of the way soon between paper gold, which is dragging down the price, and real gold, which people want to get their hands on. And always got to remember, your gold's your lifeboat. It's not an investment. And as they attack it, it's going to go down, down, down with the Titanic until the natural flotation devices separate it from the wreck and the paper gold goes to the bottom. What gold is a defense for is hyperinflation. And when the hyperinflation comes, let's just say that's the nuclear option. There isn't going to be anything like it in our lifetimes. I hope that day never comes. The super depression is probably something we can live with and tolerate to a great degree. So we end with the little film of Obama's punch 'em up in South Africa. Ready.
President Barack Obama will land at Fort Kloof Air Force Base, just a few kilometers from here. It's his second visit to South Africa, but his first as President of the United States. His talks with African leaders are expected to cover bilateral relations, education, health, security, and development cooperation in Africa. This trip is also vital for the US administration as they try and play catch-up with the Chinese, who have made strong political and economic inroads on the continent. In recent years, the US have been seen as an aid giver and not so much a trading partner. While many South Africans are excited about Obama's arrival, factions such as the group behind me are not welcoming the US visitors. The No You Can't or No Obama campaign is made up of various political groups and the public. Some are blaming Obama for crimes against war, while others are blaming him for, say, global warming.
I think that it's very clear at the moment that the Nobel Peace Prize givers made a mistake. Because Obama has not actually contributed to any peace building across the world. Instead, he has started wars. He has continued US aggression and the violation of basic human rights.
We don't share similar values with that of President Obama in the USA, which represent injustice, aggression, war, imperialism, and atrocious system of capitalism.
They're also criticizing the US support for Israel and say that the world power are undermining development in Africa. Either way, the group's actions aren't expected to halt the president's visits to Soweto, Cape Town, and Pretoria. Yusuf Omar, Pretoria.
News that moves. ENCA.com.
There we go. Goodbye to Obama's power base, the people. Mr. Obama, close Guantanamo. Get out of the wars. Get the troops home. Stop the national security grid. Don't make the police state. Don't be Uncle Tom. And submit to this evil machination. Be an anti-globalist. Change the channel to that channel. Watch Conspiracy Cafe. We're here again next week, Thursday. Thanks for coming out. Power to the people. Good night.